Welcome back. Final chapter of completing this video. This is what we're ending with. A beautiful timeline, as you can see. It just expands the whole way. If your editing timeline looks anything remotely close to this, then I think you're making good progress in your procedures, in your workflow, your editing workflow. So after much struggling to come to this week, the last couple of things to check off was this. Will it focus? There you go. If any of you follow my Instagram page, links in the description below, you would have, may or may not have seen this, but this was a checklist that helped to bring me back to focus. What were the last couple of touch-ups that I needed to do for this? First one was the scene, checking the scenes and also adding an end credits section to this video. As I said right in the first episode, that this wasn't gonna be a typical video. I thought it would require me, let me mute this for a while. I thought it would require me to use phone footages. Funny enough, I didn't even use any because there was just so much content that was already recorded. I didn't think I need to, but I did get some backup footages as a bonus right at the end. It was a personal decision of mine to have an end credits scene just to show my appreciation to those who have went a bit above and beyond what we could have asked for to help out, to help me out, to help us out. So I truly appreciate them. So I hope you guys don't mind me showcasing you in the video. Color grading is still a struggle. I still come back to it every time. Whenever I reopen the project, I always find myself still struggling with how do I want certain images to look, and do they look fine? If I play this back, for example, on full resolution, it's so grainy. Do I want this shot? But I thought it's slowing down, all these things. All these things add up to the frustration of editing this project. Ooh, it looks like it's hanging now. There you go. It's coming back. Lost my train of thought here. What was I saying? I always find myself coming back to checking the color grading. And if I'm really satisfied with all the colors that are coming out in each and every one of these clips, and I find myself still tweaking slightly certain bits and pieces. So this is it's gonna be a repetitive process throughout the whole editing stage, especially when you're working in this situation where it's a run and gun shoot. The optimal settings for the camera may not be as you expect. And we're all here to discover and learn how to work around the limitations that we had. Then after color grading, the other section was I needed to tweak were subtitles. Some of the speeches given by my wife's friends were in Chinese, so I thought it would help to just have English subtitles. At this point in time, I'm still pondering about if I should have subtitles for the speeches that were given in English. I have two minds about it, but I think it may help if I put the subtitles on the YouTube video itself. Like you can turn on the CC button and read the subtitles from there, or should I embed the subtitles? So for now, I've only placed embedded subtitles for the words, for the speeches spoken in Mandarin, Chinese, and just descriptions for the end credits. Have a think about that. After subtitles, then we went down to adding any extra additional sound effects. If you can see the audio layers here, audio layer 12 and audio layer 13. These are the only clips added in for additional sound effects. And the thing about sound effects is you don't want to overwhelm your videos with it just to look fancy. Is it part of a transition so it works well? You gotta listen to it a couple of times to see how you feel about it. And a lot of editing comes down to your own gut instincts and how you trust your own judgment and your creativity into what works, what is good enough and what's not good enough. Because this is your own personal project, right? You are the client. So you should know what you want. Takes a bit of self-reflection there. But this is what I came out with. There's a swoosh here because this transition here, funny enough, is just the camera movement. The movement of the camera here was a nice transition. I thought it was a nice transition that intercuts between what my brother is actually saying here versus what he's not saying, just expressing himself over here. So adding this little swoosh, which you may or may not have noticed, maybe if you don't have earphones, you may not notice as much, but if you do, then it's just a slight addition just to add to a movement. That doesn't signify anything big, but it's just something extra I thought just looks cool. I think it works. Other sound effects I've added was a very subtle camera click, camera shutter. It fits well with the overlay, the film overlay grain here for a couple of the stills that I've used for certain scenes. This works for here, one. We have another one here, two, and here, three. This is a small transitional effect to the next scene here. And then fourth, this wasn't a camera shutter sound effect. This was sound effects for fire sparklers to match with the context of what's going on here, building up to the fireworks. So having completed this checklist, the last and final stages of your edit should be, and this is something that people don't talk about very often, is actually render testing. And this is the best way for you to know whether your video is going to look good on people's phones, on other people's monitors, depending on how many monitors or screens you have access to, that you can test it out and see if the colors are balanced out well enough and they're not oversaturated or undersaturated on the people's screens. And also your audio. Does the audio sound good, not just through your earphones that you love using, but does it also work well on speakers or other people's TVs? And you make those adjustments based on those render testings, which is going to be quite a few. You may be surprised how many times you're going to have to re-render a project just to see if you've got everything ready for the upload. Doesn't always have to be on every video, but a project like this, which requires a bit more detailing on the sound, the image, you want to make it look and sound as good as you can. So this is a very helpful tip I would advise. I made the mistake of not doing that and then getting so disappointed and so frustrated with myself when the short film I've done the colors look horrible on another friend's TV or something. Been there, done that. I don't want to do it again. So please render test your projects. That's what we're going to do next. If you'd like to support the channel, feel free to make a contribution of your choice over at buymeacoffee.com. Links are in the description. And I thank you. Audio test 1 on your earbuds. As I'm listening, I like to check that my settings here are set to these parameters. I can only tell you this is the method recommended by other YouTubers whom I've learned from, and it has worked for me so far. And these keep a better regulation of the audio meters here to make sure nothing goes beyond -14 LUFS, which is what is recommended for posting on YouTube. I also added some EQ adjustments on the background ambient sounds of the B-rolls, just to make them blend better with each other and not stand out from the music at certain sections. Now this is where I start being more nitpicky, and I think it's worth your time on a personal project to listen carefully to each audio element and adjust the effects you have on them, if any, just to make sure they have the right amount of strength or softness in them. Like for example, this reverb that I have on the shutter click sound. So thank you for joining me. And if you like this kind of content, consider subscribing to the channel with the bell notifications on so you don't miss out. And I'll see you in the next one.